Incredible journey revealed. A lone rancher's dog. Unexpectedly returns with a lost Chinese widow. Sam stood at the edge of the pasture where the horizon folded into the distant mountains, feeling the weight of the land pressing down on him. His father had poured his life into this ranch, and now it lay heavy on Sam's shoulders. He could still hear the echoes of his father's laughter and the tales of triumph over storms and drought. But now, as the wind whipped through the grass, it whispered of inadequacy. Endless bills, dwindling cattle, and the sheer impossibility of meeting the demands of the farm alone. He hesitated as the empty stalls mocked him, and he wrestled with fear that he'd never fill those shoes, that the ghost of his father would haunt him forever. Days turned into an endless cycle of struggle, and every task felt like climbing a mountain. With only a dozen cattle left, the ranch was barely holding on. The hum of uncertainty gnawed at him, a constant reminder of loss and impending failure. And finally it happened. Duke, his loyal dog, wandered off. Desperation surged through Sam as he called, searching the rugged land for any sign. Duke was his only companion, the only connection to a happier past. Could he truly manage this ranch without him? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, stretching into an eternity filled with worry. As Sam wrestled with the gnawing sense of loss, the vibrant landscapes around him, once a source of solace, began to suffocate him. The town's whispers grew louder. About him, about Duke's absence, and about the dilapidated state of the ranch. Each day brought him closer to the precipice of his own despair, a slowly building fear that if he failed here, he would lose everything. His father's legacy would crumble, and he'd be just another man defeated by the land. Finally, on the fourth day, Duke returned, a scraggly, scruffy shadow against the evening light. But it wasn't just the dog's triumphant bark that sent a jolt through his heart. It was the figure beside him, a woman with smoky eyes and a quiet strength. May, she called herself, a stranger in a world that felt increasingly isolating. Intrigued yet guarded, Sam couldn't help but notice the unexpected warmth that unfurled within him as she approached. But he was no longer just a rancher fighting to keep afloat. He felt the sharp sting of prejudice his community harbored against those who wandered into their lives uninvited. Working together with May was an unsteady dance. Each task was layered with an intensity Sam had never known. As they fed the cattle and repaired broken fences, they forged an unspoken bond, each interaction unearthing layers of pain and resilience. Time stood still in the solitude of the ranch as raw honesty began to replace their guarded exchanges. But beneath that connection, lingering doubts anchored Sam. What did he owe this woman, a foreigner with her own scars? And what risks did helping her involve? Just as he began to see a glimmer of hope through the fog of loneliness, Duke went missing once more, sending them spiraling into a vortex of dread. As they scoured the unforgiving plains, shadows from their pasts loomed like ominous storms. Together, amid their frantic searches, they began to reckon with the harsh truths about loss, love, and the stranglehold of expectations. Sam's heart raced, and the reality that their lives were entwined, and that taking a chance on May would change everything, pressed upon him. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky in shades of vivid orange and fear, he instinctively questioned everything he had ever known. Would he follow the path that would keep him shackled to his father's dreams? Or would he take a step towards what he truly wanted? Amid their fractured search, a flicker of movement in the distance caught their eyes. Could it be? The silhouette darted closer, and in that moment, Sam's breath caught in his throat. Racing toward the hopeful figure, he felt the surge of emotions crashing like the violent Montana winds, not yet realizing how this moment would ask him questions about himself he had long avoided. As Sam and May sprinted toward the shape that grew clearer with each step, hope surged within him, battling alongside the ghosts of doubt. Was it possible that Duke had found a way back to them? The brief possibility sparked an ember of determination in his heart, igniting a fierce desire to confront the lens through which he viewed his life. Duke bounded into view, his tail a wild flag of reunion, and Sam felt the tension release from his shoulders like water from a cracked dam. Relief flooded his senses as he sank to his knees, heart racing, arms wide open. The dog launched himself into Sam's embrace, and for a brief moment everything felt right in the world, until he glanced up at May, whose expression held a mixture of joy and hesitation. "You really care for him, don't you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sam nodded, unable to find the words. Duke had been a constant in his life, a piece of the family that felt forever lost. But as he looked at May, that connection shifted. She had unknowingly become part of something much larger, a beacon of hope in a landscape that had become desolate and unforgiving. This unexpected camaraderie stirred something deep within Sam. Amid the gentle chaos of the reunion, he recalled the images of his father, how he had fought tooth and nail for the heart of the ranch. Sam had watched as a boy, filled with innocent admiration, as his father's hands weathered the storms and tended to the land with a fierce love. Now those memories tormented him. The notion that he was failing at his father's vision swirled like a thunderstorm in his mind, demanding action. "We could expand the grazing area," May suggested, thoughtfully digging her heels into the worn earth, her keen eyes scanning the expanse of the pasture. The suggestion took him by surprise. "Expand it? You really think that could help?" The doubt laced his voice, yet with it came a flicker of curiosity. "Why not? Build something that will thrive, that can truly sustain the ranch," she said, a spark igniting in her eyes. Their gaze held, and for the first time, Sam realized how quickly she could perceive the larger picture. Struggling under the weight of his expectations had dulled his vision for what the ranch could become, not only for him, but also for May, as a partner. Could he learn to share the burdens he carried? With the sun sinking low, casting a golden hue across the ranch, he seized that moment. "Let's try it," he said boldly, surprising even himself. The words felt like a promise, not just to her, but to himself, a commitment to begin anew, to challenge the heavy chains of lineage that shrouded him. Days turned into weeks, and as they worked together, the connection deepened further. Somehow, amidst the treks across the rugged terrain and late-night discussions about dreams and pasts, he learned to open up, sharing memories cloaked in grief for the first time. May reciprocated, revealing her own story of hardship and hope, binding them in ways deeper than blood. But just when it seemed that Sam had found a rhythm, the thunder of whispered doubts returned as fiercely as before. Townsfolk began to murmur again, softer words transformed into harsh stares. "What does she know about ranching?" they'd say, tauntingly leaving him unsettled. Confronting those judgments tested Sam's resolve, compelling him to question if he was willing to risk his reputation for the sake of partnership. He felt cornered by the tight confines of small-town scrutiny, and as uncertainty spiraled tighter, he wrestled with the stakes. One evening, after a heated exchange with men who had once been friends, he returned home, anger exploding within him. "You can't base your worth on their narrow views, Sam," May stated, a steady voice breaking through his fury. Her words shifted something inside him, confronting the truth he had avoided. In their bond, Sam realized that the uncertainty of the past could harness his strength, rather than deplete it. Tomorrow would require courage, the kind that meant stepping into the light of his decision and not just weathering the conditions as they came. With that revelation, the urgency bubbled up. He could no longer be a man restricted by fear. He had to face the town. But as the thought settled in, a storm predicted on the horizon loomed larger. Would he muster the resolve to confront those challenges head-on? Or would fear swallow him whole? A gust of wind ruffled the cattle pens, and Sam suddenly stood at a crossroads that would define not merely the ranch but his very identity. His heart raced as he realized tomorrow was not just another day. It was the moment he would have to confront the ridicule of his community and choose a path that could change everything. The morning dawned, a harsh light breaking over the silhouettes of the ranch, amplifying the unease that gnawed at Sam's stomach. He had promised himself a fresh start, yet facing the day felt like asking a shipwrecked sailor to brave a tempest. Sam rubbed Duke's head, his unwavering companion, seeking solace in that familiar warmth. "Today's the day," he murmured, yet doubt thickened the air around him. As they made their way to the barns, the echoes of his father's ambitions echoed in his mind, now mixed with May's more progressive visions. The remnants of yesterday's quarrel swirled back to mind. He could picture the smirks on the faces of his former friends as they dismissed him, viewing the partnership with May as an affront to everything they'd known. But more debilitating was the underlying accusation that he had weakened. True ranchers, he had been taught, stood resolute, not swayed by opinions or change. "Thinking about them?" May's voice broke through his thoughts, grounding him. He shrugged, unwilling to divulge the turmoil within. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, pulling materials together for the day's work. Sam and May had plans for the expansion, a lasting mark of their collaboration that could transform the land, yet that ambition felt shackled beneath the weight of his unresolved fears. Each plank of wood he carried was a reminder of what they could build, yet he couldn't shake the belief that he could let May down, that every step forward might be met with backlash by a town that thrived on tradition. "Let's start with the southern fence. If we get that in place, we can have the cattle grazing there by the end of the week," May suggested, her enthusiasm contagious. Her confidence flooded him, and as they worked side by side, he pushed the doubts down, determined to channel the thought into meaningful action. Hours drifted by as they hammered nails and extended the fence, sharing laughter and glances that deepened their bond. Yet, amid the tangible act of creation, the invisible boundaries of fear remained. Every smile from May was met with hidden anxieties lurking just beneath his surface. Could they truly succeed? Or were they acknowledging an inevitable failure? The sun dropped low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched across the ranch. Just as Sam began to feel buoyed by their progress, the familiar sight of townsfolk gathered at the edge of the property caught his attention. A knot tightened in his chest. Their glances seemed sharp, the whispers distinct. Did they dare to come just to watch? To witness his failure? Sam cast a glance at May, who was oblivious to the judgment brewing outside their little world. Her focus remained fixed on the work at hand, and the fierce determination that radiated from her was a contrast to his mounting dread. The fear of collective hostility loomed dangerously close, but it also ignited a flicker of resolve. If he let these voices dictate his worth, what stood in the way of being nothing more than what they claimed? A failure. As they wound down for the day, the distant figure of an older man, one of his former friends, Peter, drew closer. Sam's heart raced, an instinctive need to be ready. They had confronted each other before, but this moment held more weight, the potency of unspoken accusations hanging palpably in the air. "Looks like you've got yourself a real project," Peter called, a sardonic smile painting his lips. "You think just because you put some wood together it'll change things here?" Every muscle in Sam's body tightened, impulsively ready to defend his choices, to shield May from the harshness of judgment. But those words struck deeper than mere mockery. They were an embodiment of doubt, validating everything he feared. "Maybe it's not just about the wood," Sam countered, emboldened by an undercurrent of determination he hadn't known he possessed. "Maybe it's about building something new." The moment hung in the air, a challenge coursing between them. In that instant, Sam was faced with a critical choice. Stand strong against the negativity, or shrink back into the shadows of tradition. Tomorrow would bring the bigger confrontation. As he met Peter's gaze, he realized that today was merely the prelude. Would he rise up to seize the momentum of change in his own life? Or would he let fear dictate the course of his future? He could feel the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders, yet, amidst the pressure, a new spark flickered in his heart, promising a journey that was finally his own to forge. Morning broke again, but this time the light felt different. It wasn't a gray shroud of anxiety, but rather a golden hue, promising potential. Sam awoke with a renewed sense of determination, a sharp contrast to the heaviness of yesterday's doubt. The memory of Peter's derisive grin lingered, but this morning it ignited a fire within him rather than a flicker of shame. As he joined May outside, the humidity hung in the air, thick with unspoken words and possibilities. She was reviewing the designs spread across a workbench, her brow furrowed in concentration, but her eyes sparkled with a conviction he had admired from the start. "We need to lay the groundwork for the barn first. The sooner we clear the old structure, the more space we'll have," she said, oblivious to the turmoil brewing in his heart. "Right," he replied, drawing a deep breath, his resolve sharpening. Clearing the old barn felt like a metaphor for shedding his past, a step towards breaking free from his father's legacy and the town's expectations. Together they worked, dismantling years of neglect piece by piece. Each board Sam pried free seemed to lighten the load he carried on his shoulders. With each nail removed, he envisioned the future May, and he were trying to build. But the whispers from town followed him, a haunting chorus threatening to sabotage his focus. Would they think he was a fool? What would they say when they saw the barn taken down? By midday, sweat beaded on Sam's forehead, and though the labor was grueling, he found a rhythm. "You know, I used to think ranching was just about the physical work," he said, trying to push through the uncertainty. "But the more I do this with you, the more I realize it's about building something we can believe in." May paused, a soft smile crossing her features. "That's exactly it. It's about redefining what this place can be. If we want things to change, we need to change ourselves first." Her words struck deeper than any flattery. They were a challenge layered with trust. In those moments, Sam's past felt like a distant echo, shrinking beneath the weight of this new vision. Yet, a paradox gnawed at him. With each step he took toward this future, was he turning his back on his roots? As they worked, the townsfolk began to gather again, this time with more curiosity than hostility. He caught glimpses of their sideways glances, but as they busied themselves with dismantling the barn, he sensed a shift in the air. Perhaps today, they were not just watching a failure. Perhaps they were witnesses to something evolving, something to be respected. Then Peter arrived with a few of his friends. Sam's heart drummed in his chest as he prepared himself for the familiar sting of ridicule. But today, something within him felt less fragile, fortified by every plank that had been stripped away. "Looks like that barn won't last much longer," Peter called, but his tone held an unexpected hint of intrigue rather than scorn. "Right," Sam replied, meeting his gaze with newfound steadiness. "We're clearing out the old to make way for the new. Sometimes you have to dismantle before you can build." The silence that followed was heavy with surprised acknowledgement. Sam felt the stirrings of something profound, a possibility of respect not just from Peter and the others, but from himself. He was not merely a vessel to carry on his father's legacy. He was the architect of something unprecedented. "Getting bold, are we?" Peter smirked, though his voice was different now, laced with grudging appreciation. Sam shrugged, a smile breaking on his face. "Just getting started." As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the dirt, every taunting glance felt slightly lighter. It wasn't a victory yet, but he was in the arena, and that made all the difference. With each swing of the hammer and each command to May, he was shaping his own narrative, not just theirs. Yet amid the hope building inside him, an unsettling thought surfaced. Was he merely redefining his path for the sake of rebellion, or was it a true reflection of who he was? The deeper he went, the more profound his self-discovery promised to be. Tomorrow loomed closer, the specter of another confrontation on the horizon. As he looked at the fragments of the barn and the people around him, Sam realized there was a bigger question he had yet to answer. Would his journey toward this new identity ultimately lead to acceptance or isolation? The moment of truth edged closer, and as he worked, he could almost feel it. The tension like a taut wire, ready to snap under pressure. The sun rose the next day, casting a brilliant light that waved like a siren call over the remnants of the barn. Sam stood at the threshold of yesterday's work, the half-demolished building resembling a shell of doubts he was shedding. Each board that lay strewn across the yard felt like a piece of his past, and as he gazed upon them, he felt a growing strength within. The inevitable confrontation he sensed ahead, stirred anticipation rather than dread. May joined him shortly thereafter, her keen gaze surveying the scene. "Are you ready for the next step?" she asked, the question both simple and profound. "Yeah," he replied, a determined edge to his voice. "It's time for us to build something new." With those words, Sam wasn't just committing to the barn's reconstruction. He was also declaring his commitment to a future that had his name on it, free from shadows. Every joint they straightened, every plank they measured, was a moment of rediscovery, a practice in shaping his autonomy. In this envied partnership with May, he found a mirror of his evolving self, a courageous, multifaceted individual who dared to dream beyond generational confines. As they began laying concrete foundations, Sam's mind drifted back to the whispers of the townsfolk. Would they understand this transformation, or would they just see another folly destined to fail? It was then that an unexpected thought struck him. This wasn't about them. This was about him, making decisions that aligned with his aspirations. He could already envision the new barn, vibrant with life and purpose, unlike the dilapidated husk that had previously stood. Nevertheless, the stakes felt higher than ever now. There was no denying the pressure creeping into his mind, forcing him to question if this was an act of desperation or a legitimate breakthrough. Each day he was learning more about himself, his capacities and his limits. The greater fear was not of failure, but of complacency. The question of authenticity became more pronounced. Was he truly honoring his roots by transforming them, or was he just running away? Hours passed, and as afternoon drew near, a figure emerged at the edge of the property. Peter. The tension resurfaced, thickening the air around them. His friends trailed behind him, blending curiosity with their habitual skepticism. Sam's heart raced, questioning what this confrontation would bring. Would it be hostility once again, a chance to belittle his efforts, or another moment of potential respect? "Nice job tearing up the past," Peter's voice rang out, mixed with a hint of genuine admiration. "But are you really ready for what's next? New ideas may not be what this town wants." "How would you know what the town wants?" Sam shot back before he could stop himself. "I'm not trying to please anybody, I'm trying to live my life." The silence that followed bore a weight heavier than the barn's beams. In that moment, it wasn't just Sam fighting for acceptance, it was the beginning of him articulating his truth. Was he ready to own his narrative? "You think you're done just because you're clearing the way?" Peter continued, voice steady as if probing for weakness. "Building from the ground up takes more than hammers and nails. It takes guts." "I know that," Sam countered, finding a fire in his own words. "I won't lie down and let the past dictate my choices. This is my decision, and I refuse to back down because it makes you uncomfortable." For the first time, Sam felt a flicker of something, perhaps respect mirrored back from Peter's gaze. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. He was learning not just to defy expectations, but to see strength in standing firm. Perhaps the town would come to accept him not as a shadow of his father, but as a presence of his own making. As Peter turned to leave, that spark ignited reflected curiosity in his friends. One of them, a previously mute bystander, murmured, "Maybe we should help." The surprising offer hung in the air, a testament to changing tides. As evening approached, the sun set like a fiery farewell to the past, illuminating Sam's interior shift. He realized the challenge wasn't just the barn or the opinions of others. It resided within, an ongoing commitment to redefine who he was against all odds. Tomorrow beckoned more than just reconstruction. It promised a deeper confrontation with himself. Could he sustain this self-imposed evolution amid opposition from his community? The question hung like ripe fruit, waiting to be plucked. The fire lit within him crackled, demanding attention. It was a truth waiting to be fully faced, a transformative journey ripe with risk, and Sam couldn't look away. The morning light filtered through trees, casting long, wavering shadows on the barn's concrete foundation where Sam and May began to lay the first bricks of a new era. The air buzzed with the scent of fresh cement, mixed with the faintest trace of wildflowers in bloom, a reminder of resilience and growth. Sam felt each concrete block was a cornerstone in the evolution of not just the barn, but of himself. As he reached for the trowel, a quiet determination brewed within. It was easy to forget how caught up he'd been in the tangled web of other people's expectations. But standing there, shaping a new reality, he was reclaiming his identity as a craftsman. Every strike of the trowel against the brick echoed the initial heartbeat of his dream, confirming that he was indeed paving the path ahead. "Hey," May's voice snapped him back. "Remember, it's not just about the barn, it's about you. Don't forget to take a moment to breathe." Her words resonated, offering a moment of pause amidst the labor. Sam wiped sweat from his brow, allowing time to fold around him. It wasn't just a physical exertion, it was a mental exercise too, charting territories of his insecurities while erecting newfound confidence. Just as the barn's foundation needed to be solid, so too did the foundation of his spirit. "I'm finding my balance," he admitted, more to himself than to May. "There's a freedom in all of this." She nodded, her eyes glinting with recognition. "Just remember, vulnerability can be your strength. It's okay to let the past inform you without trapping you." Those words cut deeper than he anticipated. Sam's thoughts flickered to his late father, a pillar of traditional views. He could still hear his dad's disdain for anything that strayed from the norm. Sam buried those memories, resolve hardening. A real man, he thought, was someone who embraced change and wasn't afraid to learn from the past. As days passed and the barn began to take shape, word of Sam's project spread. His mornings echoed with the laughter of new, unexpected helpers, those who had once stood on the sidelines voicing skepticism. They arrived bearing tools and willingness, coaxed into participation by a shared sense of curiosity, perhaps even mutual respect. Each contribution, no matter how small, felt like a testament to his growing influence within the community. Yet shadows reemerged as evening settled in. His internal dialogue cascaded into doubt. Would their presence transform this into a collaborative project? Or would he find himself drowning in the very expectations he sought to escape? One afternoon, Peter came by again. Sam braced himself, anticipation flooding him as they engaged in another banter filled with tension. "So, are you really expecting everyone to just embrace your shiny new barn?" Peter asked, skepticism veiled under an ironic smirk. "Transformation takes time." "It might," Sam replied steadily, a resolve firm anchoring his voice. "But I'm transforming, and that's what matters. I can't wait for the town to catch up. I'm not for anyone but myself." In that moment he felt an exhilarating rush. He was not only standing his ground but walking deeper into the grit of self-definition. As Peter turned away, Sam sensed a shift. Maybe it was just him, but he felt a glimmer of evolving acknowledgement from Peter. Perhaps resistance had morphed into intrigue. May joined him again after Peter left, a smile creeping across her face. "You're doing it, Sam. You're holding your ground." "Yeah, but it's not just about confronting Peter or the others," he said, conscious of the weight still within. "It's about drilling down, figuring out who I really am. The past can't be ignored, but it can't dictate my choices anymore either." As dusk approached, he caught a glint of something in the distance. A figure loomed yet untraceable, slowly emerging into view. His heart raced. A fire alarm blared within him. Was this yet another challenge or an unexpected ally? The weight of the day's successes began to unravel with the new potential set before him. The thrill of uncertainty beckoned him forward. Was he truly ready to face what lay ahead? The figure drew closer, sharpening into focus. Sam's breath caught. He couldn't turn back now. He had to confront the path ahead, whatever it may bring. The figure emerged, unveiling an unmistakable familiarity that tightened Sam's chest. It was his old dog, Max, bounding towards him with exuberant joy, as if time had folded around them. Untamed, wild, and free, the dog scurried to him, leaving behind a trail of playful dust. Sam bent down, allowing the tide of emotion to wash over him. He hadn't realized how heavy his heart had felt until this moment of reunion. Max's warmth felt grounding, a tether that pulled him back into the present. As he stroked furiously through the dog's matted hair, laughter surged uncontrollably through him. This connection, once thought lost, now pierced the fabric of his insecurities. Perhaps this was a sign, he mused, an omen of the shifting tides he sought in his life beyond the barn walls and the weighty expectations that clung to him. Yet the shade of doubt still lingered, murmuring in the recesses of his mind. As Max settled beside him, his tail thumping on the ground, Sam could almost hear Peter's sardonic words echoing in his brain. It was not just his bond with Max that he needed to patch up. There was a sense of urgency now to confront the ghosts still lurking, especially those entwined with the fear of failure. "You're back," he whispered, half in disbelief to Max. "But what does that mean for everything else?" Unbeknownst to him, under the golden light of dusk, another figure was approaching, following closely behind Max. As it approached, the silhouette sharpened, a woman with a familiar air, though her eyes depicted an ocean of sorrow. Her clothes hung on her frame, gently brushing against ground resembling the whirls of wind. The raw tenderness in her expression mirrored the soft strength of May. Yet something about this woman felt profoundly different. Sam straightened, uncertainty creasing his brow as he glanced between Max and this newcomer. He could feel a weight pulling him. It struck him that the universe had woven a new thread into the tapestry of his existence. But who was she? "Excuse me," the woman spoke gently. Her voice sliced through the stillness. It carried an almost poetic cadence, laced with the lingering shyness that one develops through hardship. "I'm looking for Max. Do you know him?" Sam's words came out more defensively than he intended. Could this be someone from the old days? Or was she simply another chapter of unexpected change? Her gaze raked over him, searching. For what, he couldn't decipher. "He belongs with me. You see, She hesitated, her thoughts swimming beneath the surface of her vulnerability. "I lost everything, and he was my only comfort. I'm just hoping to bring him back." Sam felt a swell of resistance rise within him, teeth gritted as tension rippled through the air. He had only just begun to rediscover parts of himself that had been tangled away in the past, and the idea of handing over his loyal companion stirred an urgency he hadn't anticipated. "He's been with me long enough. We're on a journey together," he responded, voice steadier than he felt. Max moved between them, sensing the burgeoning distress like the drumbeat of a rising storm, as if he too were caught in the middle of a crucial decision. This moment pulsated with weight, reverberating doubts about choices, belonging, and the fragile threads of connection that tied them all together. Returning his gaze to the woman, Sam felt layers of his past come crashing down. Who was he to deny her plea? And yet, what right did she have after all this time? Each question spiraled into the next, threading into his urge to forge his own destiny. "Why now?" he finally asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Why after all this time? The silence thickened, each heartbeat a drum roll for revelations untold. Perhaps in this encounter lay the confrontation he had been craving, not just about Max, but about the contours of sacrifice and the thresholds of letting others in. The air crackled with unspoken truths. Sam could sense it. The crossroads of who he once was and who he might become lay ahead. What choices would unfold from this moment? The woman's eyes glistened with unspoken stories. Sam leaned into the gravity of the moment, feeling the precipice of personal growth rushing toward him. Would he find strength in negotiation, or fall prey to the shadows? In the dawning light of understanding, the path he chose next would resonate far beyond the bricks of the barn, and as that realization settled, the conversation between them hung in limbo, with the potential to shift everything he held dear, and the revelation of his own heart awaited just beyond the horizon. Sam's heart raced, his mind awash in conflicting emotions. The weight of her words lingered, heavy as an iron chain demanding his attention. This woman, with her imploring gaze, was an embodiment of lost connections, just as much as Max was a sign of what he had cherished and let slip. "Max is mine now," he said slowly, wrestling with the anger that simmered just beneath the surface. "He's more than comfort. He's my best friend." Her lips trembled slightly as if those words struck a deeper chord within her. "I understand. I truly do. But he chased after me when I needed him most. I had no one else." Her voice faltered, but the fire in her eyes refused to dim. "I lost my family, and in that moment, losing him was a pain I couldn't bear." As she spoke, Sam could see rays of vulnerability piercing through her sorrow, revealing unpolished facets of her grief. It struck him that they were two souls caught in disarray, bonded by their attachment to the same being, yet separated by circumstances and choices. A slow realization began to dawn. This encounter was not merely about Max, but about really seeing the humanity in each other. "What's your name?" Sam found himself asking, his voice softer now, curious and willing to connect. "Lily," she replied, swiping at a tear that threatened to escape. "I've searched for him since everything fell apart. I didn't know how to live without him." The sincerity in her admission pierced through the barrier of defensiveness he had erected. What right did he have to deny her this reunion when he had only just begun to grasp the fragments of his own life? "Do you really want him because he's a piece of your old life or because you would care for him now?" The question slipped out before he could rein it back in, charged with the raw honesty of his own turmoil. Lily's hesitation hung in the air like a dense fog. "Both, I guess. I'm trying to rebuild, but he brought me comfort when nothing else could. He helped me breathe again. If he can do that, that's more than I could ever hope for." Sam closed his eyes, a torrent of memories flooding him. The soft warmth of Max curling beside him on cold nights, the way he brought laughter during the darkest hours. In his heart, he felt that same desperation for connection, an ache to rise above isolation and forge a meaningful life. "We could work together," he proposed, a spark of unexpected determination igniting within him. "I'm trying to be better, do better. Maybe there is space for both of us." At the suggestion, a flicker of hope danced in her tear-streaked face. "You would let me? We can find balance. Max deserves love, from both of us, and maybe he could help us find our way too. That's what I've been trying to do. Stick to the painful lessons and create a solid foundation within this mess." As words tumbled between them, a surprising calm inflected the air, each one infused with purpose. In this moment of trembling vulnerability, clarity sliced through Sam's confusion. He realized that personal growth often arises when choices confront identity. Each instant's challenge, surrogate tug on the heartstrings was a chance to redefine who he was. He stood taller now, an anchor no longer wreathed in uncertainty. Sam faced Lily, holding himself steady amidst the unpredictability of life. "What if we both take a step forwards together? We can learn from one another. Who knows what might unfold?" For the first time, Lily's shoulders eased under the burden of grief. Their paths were not so distinct. They intertwined in unexpected ways, where the trail of loss paved the way for potential regeneration. The tension in the air transformed into tentative hope as Max circled them, tail wagging, an emblem of companionship. Yet as they shared this newly crafted connection, Sam could not escape the echo of his doubts. Would allowing another to share this journey also risk fracturing his rediscovered self? The question loomed large in his mind as he watched Lily kneel beside Max, whispering his name as if it were a prayer. Sam felt the heavy breath of impending decisions, and in that moment, the weight of his own journey unfurled anew. But where would it lead them both in the depths of their own scars? Would their collaboration nurture growth, or would it force them to confront darker truths yet undisturbed? As the horizon deepened into night, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead would demand more of him than he was ready to give. The journey was beginning to unravel a tapestry rich with complexity, and in that intricate web, his next move hung on the precipice of infinite possibility. What awaited them beyond the threshold of this fragile truce was a jagged path towards healing, or perhaps a reckoning. Sam stood there, his thoughts swirling like leaves caught in a gust of wind. The moments they had shared with Max felt like the only stable ground beneath him. Yet now, with Lily poised beside this cherished anchor, he sensed the unfamiliar tremors of uncertainty beneath his feet. Collaboration echoed in his mind. Could it foster strength, or would it unravel the delicate balance he had fought so hard to achieve? As the moonlight spilled silver across the yard, illuminating the nooks of his past, Sam wrestled with the uncertainty of inviting someone else into this fragile reclamation. Would opening himself up again lead to harmonious growth? Or would it expose wounds still tender and yearning for attention? He could see Lily's hopeful gaze fixed on Max. But what would happen if they both placed their hearts in the same fragile hands? "We have to create boundaries," he said, the words firm yet careful. Sam needed structure. Chaos had burrowed too deeply into his life. "If we're going to navigate this together, we need to be clear about our intentions." Lily nodded, her expression serious. "I understand. I don't want to disrupt what you've built. Just having him near helps ease the emptiness." There was a pause, tension weighing heavily in the silence that followed. Sam searched her eyes for any signs of manipulation, any hint that she was here for selfish reasons rather than understanding. "How do we take this step forward?" she asked, her voice steady yet soft. It required a plan, an organized approach to weave their lives together without sacrificing what he so desperately cherished. "Let's start by spending time together. Max seems to bring us both comfort. He can be the bridge. We'll see if this collaboration works." The concept struck him as intentional, strategic. In this twisting moment of potential sincerity, he felt a sliver of hope pierce through the skepticism. Days turned into weeks as they began to reformulate their lives together. They sat together in the afternoons, recanting their stories, their laughter intertwining with the fleeting shadows of their past. Sam reveled in their shared company, noticing that their experiences were not starkly different after all. Both had suffered devastating losses. Both had fiercely clung to the remnants of love, and in that stark recognition, a bond was born. However, the baggage of doubts would not dissolve easily. Each laughter echoed with the underlying fear of return, the worry of fragility, and the necessity of trusting another. In his most quiet moments, Sam found himself analyzing their growing connection. Was he masking residual fear with the illusion of progress? Or was this a transformative evolutionary shard of reality? There were days when he felt the tug of old insecurities, fear of inadequacy and loss creeping back. He would watch Max weave between them, blissfully unaware of the emotional hurricane brewing. Instead of relinquishing control, Sam began to see further into the depths of himself. They were two souls reshaping what they wanted from life, and in doing so, they ventured into the delicate framework of understanding and healing. But just as the rhythm steadied, a frayed thread pulled sharply against him. One evening while setting the table for dinner, Lily received a phone call that changed the atmosphere instantly. Sam observed her fragile demeanor tighten, her voice barely above a whisper as she answered. The revelation of her past suddenly cloaked the room in thick tension. When she hung up, the weight of whatever news she carried fell heavily. "What's wrong?" he probed, concerned. She exhaled shakily, eyes shimmering with a mix of fear and resolve. "It's about my family. They want to meet. They need answers." The air shifted, crammed with unspoken fears and the unknown. Sam's defenses rose instinctively. Her past could disrupt everything they had painstakingly rebuilt. Would this new twist lead to reconciliation? Or would it lay bare the rawness still untouched? With all they had begun to share, the imminent storm of her past loomed, threatening to unearth buried connections and redefine their trajectory altogether. As they stood facing one another, Sam instinctively felt the pulse of a dilemma. The fragile trust they had built now rested on the edge of a precipice decorated with hidden dangers. Would they both face what lay ahead together, or would the winds of fate carve them away from each other forever? In the challenge of the moment, Sam sensed a reckoning approaching, more profound than he had anticipated. Uncertainty swirled within him, mingling with the growing determination to confront whatever truth lay both within Lily's newfound path and his own instinctual fears. The question remained. Were they truly ready to face the ghosts of their pasts together? The sun rose, casting a soft glow across the ranch, illuminating the scars of battles won and lost. Sam stood at the threshold of the barn, now a symbol of rebirth, his heart steady. The weight of yesterday had transformed into anticipation. He had made choices that would not only echo through the land but through his soul. Today, everything felt different. Me joined him outside, her smile infectious as she surveyed their progress. Around them, townsfolk busied themselves, actively helping to realize the vision they had forged. Sam's heart swelled with pride. This collaboration had become more than just a partnership. It was a community in spite of his earlier doubts. "Are you ready?" May asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. "Yeah," he said, determination tinging his voice. This was not just about the barn or the cattle. It was about embracing change by acknowledging that his past had shaped but would not bind him. At noon, news buzzed through the air like electricity. Lily's family was arriving. Those familiar tremors of doubt began to grip him. Would their arrival dismantle the delicate equilibrium they had fought so hard to establish? Sam took a deep breath, reminding himself of all he had accomplished. Facing the shadows of the past would only fortify his newfound self-worth. As he and May stood alongside their newfound allies, Sam realized that each member of the community had made the conscious choice to form connections beyond their previous misconceptions. They were united not by tradition, but by growth and acceptance. With the approaching vehicle, an immense silence enveloped the crowd. Sam's chest tightened. He felt the gravitational pull of anxiety as a van pulled up, dust swirling around its wheels. And then, out of it, stepped Lily's family. The coldness of judgments that had once suffocated him dissipated as the tension transformed into a palpable curiosity among the townsfolk. They had come to see not only their own connection to Sam, but also the weighty legacy that bound Lily to her lost past. For a moment, he sensed life hanging in fragile balance. As Lily's family approached, her expression shifted, a raw mix of anxiety and longing. "They need to hear my story," she whispered, her eyes searching his for assurance. The understanding washed over him like sunlight after a storm. He stepped beside her, grounding her fears with his strength. "We face it together," he assured her, an unbreakable resolve fueling his words. "You don't have to hide anymore." The gathering drew a collective breath as Lily began sharing her journey, each word a thread weaving their lives into a shared narrative. Sam stood beside her, heart swelling with pride, not just for her strength but for the power of redefining their identities together. She spoke of loss but also of hope, and as she did, the community began to listen, not just with their ears, but with open hearts. Shame melted away under the genuine intent radiating from those around them. This was not just Lily reclaiming her narrative, it was Sam too, no longer just a rancher tethered to the weight of expectation. He had transformed into a leader of change, someone who fostered collaboration and molded relationships worth investing in. When Lily concluded her story, the lingering silence was filled with unspoken recognition. Her family stepped forward, embracing her with heartfelt apologies and tears of both sorrow and joy. Sam felt the release of tension. Hope poured through their souls. This was about redeeming their pasts in a way that honored both loss and triumph. The townsfolk began to murmur. "We're proud of you, Sam and Lily," one of them called out, a glint of recognition sparking in their eyes. "You've shown us a new path." "Yeah," another chimed in. "Today we embrace change. It's time we also lift each other up." Sam's heart raced, the validation threading through his doubts and fears. They had forged something identifiable, acceptance within their community, a bonding of independent journeys as they embraced the fragmented pieces of their lives and turned them into a mosaic of resilience. That evening, as the sun began to set, a deep sense of fulfillment washed over Sam. He looked at Lily, then at May, and the horizon illuminated the bond forged through vulnerability, growth, and collaboration. The ranch was no longer solely a legacy of his father's dreams. It had become a sanctuary of shared dreams, visions woven by the hearts of all who stood beside him. Lily leaned into him, a quiet understanding evident in her eyes. "Thank you for being my strength." Sam smiled, knowing that their individual journeys had intertwined into something greater than he ever could have envisioned. "And thank you for reminding me that the past, although painful, should not define me. It has shaped us, and now we can forge ahead." With each setting sun, they had rebuilt a future infused with possibility. As connection etched deeper into the land beneath their feet, Sam realized that he had achieved more than reconciling his feelings. He had embraced a new identity where acceptance and love thrived. Their paths intertwined in an unbreakable bond of camaraderie, each person fulfilled by this leap of vulnerability. As they prepared for the days that lay ahead, Sam understood that their collective journey could forge bonds that transcended expectations. It was a beautiful closure, but not an ending. It was merely a beginning, a chance to embrace new roots that he had cultivated through honesty and courage. Now was the moment that everything coalesced, the past, present, and future harmonized, woven into the very fabric of who he was. He had proved to himself that he could shape his destiny, transform pain into strength, and build a new life that embraced all he had become. The new journey awaited, standing solidly before him, a tapestry of what was and what could be, resonating with his every heartbeat. To all you who have come this far in the story, this is the moment to step up and be part of an evolving narrative. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.